"You're not the woman I was expecting." The words were spoken quietly, but they landed like a slap. Emily sat frozen beneath the warm Christmas lights as the man across the table pushed back his chair and walked away. Now she was alone at an expensive restaurant, surrounded by Christmas wreaths and happy couples, trying not to let one cruel judgment destroy her dignity. But before the night ended, two little girls would walk toward her and ask a question that would change everything. "Can we join you?" If stories about kindness and dignity mean something to you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel, because what happened next proved that sometimes the people who hurt us are not the people who define our worth. Emily had spent most of her life learning that kindness did not require an audience. She volunteered at a community kitchen, helped an elderly neighbor carry groceries, and once spent her lunch break comforting a frightened child who had become separated from her mother. She never talked about those things because, to her, kindness was not a performance. It was simply a choice. That was why she had agreed to the Christmas blind date arranged by her friend. A small part of her still hoped to build a family someday. That evening, she arrived wearing a simple but elegant red dress. She smiled when her date, Marcus, arrived. But his expression changed almost immediately. He looked at her photograph on his phone, then at her, and his smile disappeared. "I thought you would look different," he said. Emily felt embarrassed but remained polite. "I understand," she answered. Marcus barely touched his water. After 10 uncomfortable minutes, he stood. "I don't think this is going to work." Emily nodded. "Thank you for being honest." He left without another word. She sat quietly, refusing to chase him or ask what was wrong. She could have cried, and eventually she did, but she kept her tears private. She reminded herself that rejection did not make her less valuable. A person's inability to see your worth does not erase it. Then she noticed a family sitting several tables away. A handsome man in a cream-colored shirt was watching two little girls dressed in matching white Christmas dresses. The girls had blonde curls, reds, and bright eyes. They were twins, and they whispered to each other while looking toward Emily. Their father noticed. "Girls, finish your dinner," he said gently. But the twins kept looking. Finally, one slipped from her chair and walked toward Emily. Her sister followed. Emily looked up as the two girls stood beside her table. The first girl smiled and asked, "Are you alone?" Emily nodded. "Yes, sweetheart." The second girl tilted her head. "Are you sad?" Emily smiled despite herself. "A little." The twins looked at each other. Then one asked the words Emily would remember for the rest of her life. "Can we join you?" Before she left, Daniel thanked her for being patient with the girls. Emily smiled and said, "They were the ones who helped me." Daniel looked confused. "How?" Emily glanced at the twins. "I came here feeling rejected. Your daughters reminded me that being alone for one evening does not mean being forgotten." Daniel looked at his daughters with quiet pride. Emily walked outside into the snowy night feeling lighter than she had felt all evening. She still carried the pain of Marcus's words, but she no longer carried them as a judgment against herself. She understood that dignity was not pretending rejection did not hurt. Dignity was deciding that pain would not change the kindness inside her heart. Emily blinked, surprised. She looked toward their father, who had already stood from his table. He approached quickly, his expression apologetic. "I'm so sorry," he said. "They usually don't walk up to strangers." Emily smiled. "They're not bothering me." The girls looked at her hopefully. Their father introduced himself as Daniel. "And these two are Lily and Lucy." Emily smiled at the twins. "It's lovely to meet you." The girls pointed toward the empty chairs. "Can we really sit here?" Emily looked at Daniel. He seemed uncertain, but she moved her purse and made room. "Of course." The twins climbed into the chairs, and within seconds the sadness in the air began to disappear. Lucy noticed Emily's tea. "You only got tea." Emily laughed softly. "That's enough for me." Lily looked serious. "You should have dessert on Christmas." Emily laughed again. "That sounds like a very important rule." "It is," Lily declared. Daniel watched for a moment before joining them. "I hope this is okay." Emily nodded. "Your daughters have excellent manners." Daniel smiled. "They have big hearts too." He looked at Emily and noticed the sadness she was trying to hide. He did not ask invasive questions. He simply said, "I hope your evening gets better." Emily answered, "It already has." That conversation became unexpected. Emily listened with genuine interest. She did not pretend to be cheerful. She did not pretend the rejection had not hurt, but she refused to let pain make her bitter. When Lily accidentally knocked over a glass of water, Emily immediately reached for napkins. "It's okay," she said before the girl could panic. "Accidents happen." A few minutes later, a waiter brought dessert. Daniel asked to add Emily's meal to his bill. Emily noticed and shook her head. "Please don't." Daniel looked surprised. "It's Christmas. I appreciate that," she said, "but I can pay for myself." Her dignity was gentle, not defensive. Daniel respected that. "Then let me at least buy dessert for the girls and you can choose whatever you like." Emily smiled. "Deal." As they ate, Daniel eventually asked why she had come alone. Emily hesitated. She could have embarrassed Marcus, but she chose not to. "I was supposed to meet someone," she said. He decided he didn't want to stay. Daniel's face tightened. "I'm sorry." Emily shrugged. "It hurt, but I'll be okay." Lily looked confused. "Why would somebody leave you?" Emily smiled. "Sometimes people make quick decisions without knowing someone's heart." Lucy reached across the table and placed her small hand over Emily's. Then they missed out. Everyone laughed, including Emily. Later, Emily noticed a woman at another table struggling with a stroller. Without thinking, she stood and helped her. Daniel watched as Emily held the door open, smiled, and returned. "You do that often, don't you?" he asked. "Help people?" "Yes," Emily shrugged. "I guess I do." Daniel asked, "Why?" Emily looked toward the Christmas lights. "Because everyone is carrying something you cannot see." That sentence stayed with him. Daniel had money, a beautiful home, and every material comfort, but he knew loneliness. His daughters had lost their mother, and he had spent years trying to be strong for them. That evening, however, he saw something unexpected. A woman who had been humiliated by a stranger was still capable of making other people feel safe. Before leaving, Lily hugged Emily. Lucy did the same. "Can we see you again?" they asked. Emily looked at Daniel. He smiled. "If she wants to," Emily nodded. "I would like that." She left the restaurant with something she had not arrived with hope. The next morning, Emily woke expecting loneliness. Instead, she found a message from an unknown number. "Thank you for making my daughters smile. Daniel." Beneath it was a photograph of Lily and Lucy holding the paper snowflakes Emily had helped them make. Emily smiled. She replied, "Thank you for letting me join your Christmas table." Daniel answered, "I think the girls would say you let us join yours." One afternoon, Daniel took Emily to a community center where his family supported a holiday charity. Families had come for food, clothing, and Christmas gifts. Emily immediately began helping. She organized coats, served meals, and sat beside an elderly man who looked embarrassed because he could not afford presents for his grandchildren. "You don't have to explain anything," she told him. "Everyone deserves dignity." She handed him several wrapped gifts. "These are for your grandchildren." The man began crying. "I don't know how to thank you." Emily shook her head. "You don't have to. Just give them a wonderful Christmas." Daniel watched from across the room. He realized that the woman he had met by accident was exactly the kind of person he wanted his daughters to learn from. Not because she was perfect, but because she remained kind when life gave her reasons not to be. Months later, Christmas returned. The same restaurant glowed with wreaths, red ribbons, candles, and sparkling lights. Emily entered wearing a red dress. This time she was not alone. Daniel stood near the table with Lily and Lucy. The twins ran toward her and hugged her tightly.
"You came!" Lily shouted.
"Of course," Emily replied. Lucy grabbed her hand. "We saved your seat." Emily looked at Daniel and he smiled. They refused to let anyone sit there. They returned to the table where the story had begun. Daniel looked at Emily for a long moment. "Last Christmas, you came here believing you had been rejected because you weren't enough." Emily smiled softly. "I learned that night that someone else's rejection doesn't decide my value." Daniel nodded. "And I learned that kindness can enter a room quietly and change everyone in it." He reached across the table and took her hand. "Emily, I don't want to make some dramatic promise. I just want to ask if you'll keep building this life with us." Emily's eyes filled with tears. Before she could answer, Lily and Lucy shouted together, "She has to say yes!" Everyone laughed. Emily said yes, but the most beautiful part was not the romance. It was the lesson their Christmas night had created. The man who rejected her thought he was judging her appearance, but he never saw her heart. Two little girls saw something different. They saw a woman sitting alone and decided she should not have to stay alone. Their simple kindness became a bridge between three lonely hearts. There is a truth in the Bible. Let all that you do be done in love. Emily lived that message without preaching it. She showed kindness when nobody was watching. She showed dignity when she was embarrassed. She accepted love without surrendering her independence. She taught Daniel and his daughters that Christmas is not about expensive gifts or perfect celebrations. It is about making room for someone who feels forgotten. Years later, whenever Lily and Lucy told the story of how they first met Emily, they always remembered the same thing. They had asked, "Can we join you?" And that act of courage had changed everything. So if you ever find yourself sitting alone, rejected, disappointed, or wondering whether you matter, remember Emily. Your worth does not disappear because someone failed to recognize it. And if you ever see another person sitting alone, do what those little girls did. Walk over, smile, offer kindness. Sometimes dignity is restored not by a grand speech, but by one simple invitation. Can we join you? If this story touched your heart and reminded you that kindness and dignity still matter, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories. And remember, the person sitting alone today may be carrying a story you know nothing about. Your kindness could be the Christmas miracle they were waiting for.